This is the Conrad Alert. Civil defense information will be broadcast at 6:40.
West of the Rockies, you're on the air. Hello.
Y2K, how can we prepare?
Stop a few of their machines and radios. Throw them into darkness for a few hours.
We are fighting for our lives. My family must survive.
For 5 years, 1,000 gallons of gas, air filtration, water filtration.
Coming at you from the frozen tundra that is East Central Alberta, Canada, streaming live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, Telegram, Rumble, and Odyssey. Welcome back to the workshop where we create community, find freedom, promote preparedness, and share success. I am Toolman Tim, and today is February 3rd, 2023, and this is episode 247 of the Workshop Podcast. So how the hell is everyone out there? Good to have you. We are going to get a couple of announcements out of the way, and then I will go on to my beautiful co-host here right next to me. So 3 quick things. Number 1, I launched yesterday the 3rd annual Workshop Groundhog Day contest. Always love it. I don't know how Groundhog Day became a thing for me. Hey, little Klondike Outdoors, good to have you. So I don't know how I managed to start this routine every year, but we launched it, and I think we've had like 160 entries in 24 hours, so that's really exciting. So go to toolmantim.co, and there's 5 really cool prizes. You can check out the link on the TikTok or the YouTube or anything like that. Number 2, no episode tomorrow night. That episode has been moved to next week. I believe it's next Tuesday. We are going to a wild game supper tomorrow night, which is going to be exciting. All the wild meat you can eat. Aren't you excited, Mrs. Cook? Yeah, I knew really. She is. She's always excited.
No, I'm not.
And then Sunday evening, we'll be back to our regularly scheduled programming with Brian Alexovich from the Lots Project coming on for a Sunday evening chat. So it should be good. So without further ado, let's bring on, wow, Mrs. Cook is right next to me. How are you, ma'am?
I'm good.
Good. How's your week been?
Busy.
Busy? How come?
Well, we opened the upstairs to the daycare. And,
I don't know how that happened.
And it's been chaos. We have to work out the kinks, and
you got new staff, new kids,
yeah.
A new floor, like a new section of the building open. So
yeah, and everybody's roles have been
right, new roles and
around,
everything too.
Yeah.
Everything. What do they say that the only thing that likes change is a dirty baby, right?
Yeah, well, I seem to be okay with it. There's a couple of people that are struggling, but we'll get through all the kinks and we'll get it done.
Absolutely. That's what you're here for.
Yep.
You're the boss. And as soon as we start the live stream, little Miss Maisie's at the door trying to get in. So
she can stay out.
Yeah, she can piss off, poor thing. So You only got to watch it once this week, didn't you?
I did.
Yeah, which is
you
fine.
You watched it twice, didn't you?
I did. I watched it this afternoon, which was fine while I was tearing up the laminate floor. So she put me to work this week, guys. I have been a pack mule. I don't know what all I've done absolutely everything under the sun. So,
yeah,
but
still more to come.
It meant I was at home, and so I was able to watch it a second time. Took lots of notes, but it was a great episode. It was a surprise of an episode. It was an episode that probably rubbed some people the wrong way, but I hope not. Not too bad. Yeah, whatever. It's just, it was what
Don't
it
worry
was.
about
So
it's not your life.
Exactly.
Right.
So, and it also featured one of my favorite characters. Well, one of my favorite character actors in Nick Offerman, who we know as Ron Swanson. And in this, he plays Bill, right?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. So anyway, we have said the first 2 episodes we loved because they did a flashback to fill in some of the backstory. Now, this one doesn't even have a cold open. Now, if you guys don't necessarily know what a cold open is, it's where the show starts right into the drama, whatever it happens to be, before the credits. Now, last night, or what night was it? Sunday night when the show come on, it was credits first, which is the first time they've done that. And it opened up with Joel down by the river. You remember that? He was stacking stones?
Yep.
Yeah. So I'd read online, somebody thought maybe it was a bit of like a makeshift memorial for Tess, or do you think that they're reading too much into that? I thought maybe he was just, what man doesn't go down by the river and just stack stones? Because I do that shit.
Yeah, I don't know. I think maybe it was just his way of dealing with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so we open up with Ellie and Joel walking around doing their thing. And something I noticed this time was Ellie I think had the same backpack as Joel's daughter, or same brand. Remember we saw
Yeah.
JanSport, which I thought, whatever.
From the 90s, right?
Yes, yeah,
Yeah.
the late 90s, early 2000s. And they sit down and they have a little, well, I guess they're going to eat, right? But
Yeah.
Joel, so if you go back an episode, Ellie was all bragging about how she had a chicken sandwich, and now she's out of food already. And Joel had to give her some, whatever the hell that.
I think it's jerky.
Yeah, it looks like it, doesn't it? Yeah. So,
or some sort of jerky type substance or whatever.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, what do you think of Ellie's acting? Do you like her?
Not particularly. No. She.
How come?
Well, I didn't really care. Like Game of Thrones, she wasn't in it a ton, so you didn't really have. But she was a lot younger too,
And she just had a few lines.
She just had a few lines, but it was the same type of thing. They kind of have her like snarky and obnoxious and stuff. But I find the actress herself, I'm not a huge fan.
And so that has been the biggest complaint from a lot of reviewers online, and people love the show. The show has been great because Joel, the actor there, what's his name? That plays Pedro Pascal, kind of carries the show. Why do you giggle when I mention him?
Because Amy calls him her substitute husband.
That makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
He's okay looking, I guess, but yeah. So that he carries their conversations. I love their conversations. I could listen to the two of them yammer on all the time.
Well, but I think what I can't remember. Bella Ramsey.
Yes,
that's who it is.
Yeah.
Like
the name sounds like a character from Game of Thrones. That's why I
but what is she, like 20?
19, I believe.
20, yeah. So I still classify her as a kid actor.
Yeah.
And but I find in this she's not like the character in the game.
No, that's
like,
true. That is a bit of an issue, isn't it?
And like she doesn't have to be like, I don't know why, like for some reason they just keep pushing and pushing and pushing for her to drop all these F-bombs all the time. And it's like it's not needed and it's not necessary. And I find the way she acts, she overacts.
She
everything.
Does.
Yeah.
I hate. So there's a YouTuber I watch called The Critical Drinker,
mm-hmm.
and he's very opinionated. I really appreciate him because he kind of tears apart modern cinema. And his complaint about Bella was that she basically has three emotions that she can show. Mm-hmm. And I don't want it to be this rag on Ellie show. You know what I mean? Because
it's true that, and because the thing is, so you want this show to be successful. And then all of a sudden we're only 3 episodes into it and people are already having an issue with her. Right. So it's that right there gets you kind of nervous that it's not going to be as successful as they want it to be. And
absolutely.
And I think I even said that about the first episode too, how like they made her like more rough around the edges than what she is in the game. And there was no need for that.
Tried to make her stronger earlier on. But
it's not strong. Like it's just coming off as an annoying teenager mouthpiece, right? And like I don't know anybody out there has teenagers. I don't want to sit there and watch a teenager on television that's like that, because like our girls are hitting 13 and I can't handle their mouths half the time, and I don't want to sit there and watch somebody.
And they think, yeah, I know.
Like I get it. It is part of the show and everything, but again, it's not like the character.
No, that is true. Yeah. So as they're walking along, they come to an old country grocery store, which looks like some of the grocery stores or stores we would see on the back roads in Alberta, really, you know, like the small town. So I'm sure it was something they found somewhere. And they go inside, and it was kind of a humorous little exchange because she says, "You can't remember where you stashed your stuff." And he goes, "I'm just trying to prime my memory." He wouldn't admit to.
He never says how long it had been since he had been there either, right?
He said it'd been, just a few years, I think, so it had been
but a few years could be 10 years, it could be 6 years, it could be 2 years,
Exactly.
So you don't know. And they emphasize on the fact that Joel is older. So it's like, because you figure he was probably mid-30s when it happens. So
he'd be in his 50s, and
he would be pushing 60, right?
Yeah, and he'd be, rode hard and put away wet. Like that life would be hard on you. It would age you fast, I think.
Yeah.
And so I like that part where Joel has a stash, and there's a lot of prepper themes in this episode, guys. So I enjoyed that a lot.
Yeah.
And I'll share with you an exchange over text I had with my brother-in-law later too, which was fun over this episode. So he has a handgun and a first aid kit and a few other things that look straight out of the video game that he hid under a tile in the old country grocer. And that was fine. But then, of course, Ellie does something that felt like it was right out of The Walking Dead. Remember, she goes into a back room, and instead of telling Joel, hey, I'm going to climb down here, she just jumps down in a chute and comes across an infected who had been crushed under a pile of dirt, and it hissed at her and growled at her, and she walked over and like sliced it open, remember?
So she could stab it.
Yeah, and then she stabbed it. So it was just kind of, I don't know. It felt, again, like it was something out of the later seasons of The Walking Dead.
It was something that didn't have to be done.
Right. Now, I do want to mention, though, that I still think this was the best episode so far.
Yes.
I love this episode. So the fact that we're picking on this means that we're going to get to the good stuff soon. But there are a few small ongoing issues with the show that are a tad bit frustrating that we want to deal with. And those are it. Unfortunately, the biggest issues are with Ellie.
Yes.
And also, unfortunately, if you're familiar with the narrative of the show or of the game, next season is going to be almost all Ellie. So that can be a bit of an issue, right? So,
yeah. Well, and that's why I said, like, they're going to turn it into something that people aren't going to watch. Yeah, she got in here.
Yeah, it's all right.
Yeah. And that's the thing. Like, you don't want it to be something you don't want to watch, but I'm probably not going to watch it if Pedro Pascal's not in it anymore.
I know.
Because he carries it, and like we said either last week or the week before, she is not talented enough to carry an entire show on her own.
So they'll have to if they're going to do it, they're going to have to put a strong supporting cast around her. That's think. So now there was one more neat little thing that I enjoyed, kind of a video game, homage or whatever. But when they walk into the grocery store, what's sitting there but an old Mortal Kombat 2 console or arcade machine, which was cool because growing up in high school, junior high, we used to go over to Vicky's, which is the local grocery store right next to my school, and we would play Mortal Kombat, and we couldn't wait until they got the Mortal Kombat 2 coin-op machine, and they did, and it's still there. I was home a couple of years ago, went in for lunch, and there it was. They bought it, and I think that thing must have paid for itself a million times over. So yeah, then they head out. They got their supplies. They're still walking along the country road, and they come across a crashed plane. And that was that. I thought the effect, it looked good.
Yeah, it kind of looked like the planes in War of the Worlds there.
Yes, which that plane is still there. Remember, we saw it on the Universal tour.
Yeah.
And apparently, I didn't know this, but that image of the plane was the very first press image they released for the show when they were promoting it way back then.
Okay.
So, and they had a cool little conversation. The show's at its best when the two of them are walking along and talking. I like that because, she said, did you ever go up in one of those, Joel? And he basically says, well, yeah, and it really wasn't that special. But of course, we took it all for granted. He said $12 sandwich, and they put you in a tuna can of a seat, and and she just thought it was the coolest thing ever that he got to go up in the sky. And it was neat. And then they of course they keep walking, and Ellie keeps doing what Ellie does, and she asks a metric shit ton of questions, right? And,
she's not.
Well, she's
not. What do you call it? Worldly.
Yeah, everything she's experiencing is for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sitting here talking as a chihuahua's staring at me lovingly in the eyes. So Maisie's making me uncomfortable. Right, sweetie? So they talk, and there was some really good exposition where Joel shares the story, or at least his best estimate of what happened. And he's pretty damn close. He said, he said the best guess everybody had was that it got into an essential ingredient that was a dry ingredient. And he said flour or sugar. And the cool or sad thing is that you maybe don't catch in the first episode. Well, I guess you do, but you don't put two and two together, is the infection day was Joel's birthday.
Yeah. So
that's why he'll never forget, poor guy, which sucks.
Well, the same day his daughter died too, right?
Well, I suppose that's true. Can you imagine? Oh, Jesus, that just sucks no matter how you slice it. And Joel says one of the quotes I loved was, by Monday, everything was gone, which is sad, but it happened basically from Friday to Monday, right? And so then Joel decides that he doesn't want her to go along the road. Yeah. And she, of course, once again, gets her panties in a knot and says, guess what, Joel, we're going to go on the road.
Like a Walking Dead thing again.
Uh-huh. And what do they come across? Do you remember?
It was just some dead bodies. Like, well, not even bodies anymore. They're just
skeletons.
Just skeletons and bones.
And Joel fills her in on the fact that, and of course, this is probably exactly what would happen. Mm-hmm. They, the people that wouldn't fit into the quarantine zones were taken out into the woods, shot, and burnt. Mm-hmm. Because, as Joel says, dead people can't get infected. And then they finally cut to a flashback.
Yes.
And they show a lady with a little girl who matches the description or what they show of those skeletons in the ditch. So it's kind of sad, you know, but that's where the real act. So that's kind of the opening montage, whatever. And then we move into when we get to meet a lot of people's favorite prepper. And I thought they did a pretty good job of representing him.
Actually, yeah. He did incredible.
Oh,
and he was believable, like when he's in the basement there and he's hiding out and they don't know he's down there. It was like they were rounding everybody up on buses. Yeah.
It was very reminiscent of Hurricane Katrina, because when he steps out of his front door, you guys have all seen him, the spray paint markings on the doors of Katrina. And they, you know, they're FEMA markings that say, okay, what's in here, who they found, how many are dead, that kind of stuff. And so he's in the basement watching his black and white monitors and his security system.
And it's like a bunker.
Yeah, it's an underground bunker. Yeah. And so then there's quite a few things, but he very quickly, they establish that he's a prepper. So you see a guns and ammo magazine. You see barrels of sulfuric acid. You see a don't tread on me flag. You see a join or die flag.
And then you see like the walls of the guns.
Guns everywhere, which is great. And then the greatest line ever, and the way he delivers it was so good, because after the guys leave, he's like, what was it? Not today, New World Order, jackboot fucks. And I was like, yes. So the funny thing is, you know, they want to make him look like a bit of a twisted, paranoid prepper, but everything he believed came true. Mm-hmm. And that's what was really funny. I like that. And then, of course, he comes out of his bunker, out of his house, pulls his mask off, and we get like an 80s music montage of him almost like, was it Risky Business when Tom Cruise was left home alone and he comes sliding?
Well, actually, you know what it kind of reminded me of is when the montage when Arnold Schwarzenegger and the girl in
Commando
when they rob the gun store.
That's right. Radon Kwan or whatever.
Yeah, that's what it kind of reminded me of.
Yeah, because it's right out of an 80s. I mean, he's driving around and they show him tearing apart a boat to turn into a utility trailer. And then he goes to Home Depot and he's like running down the aisles, filling up his cart full of like everything I would do.
Yep.
So right about this time, I get a text message from my brother-in-law and he says, Tim, the dude in episode 3 is just like you. And I asked him, I said, well, how far are you? And he told me where he was. And then we'll get back to the rest of that exchange in a few minutes because it's quite humorous. So he's in Home Depot and the power goes out. And then he's like, well, that didn't take very long. Yep. And he somehow knows where the main natural gas shut off or shut on or, switch is. And he goes back and he turns the natural gas back on. And goddamn, he's lucky enough to keep it going for a long time. It doesn't. So there is this story is the epitome of an epic, a short story told over a long period of time. And you follow this character, this prepper, for 20 years. He becomes an old man, and we'll talk a little more about it. But so there's a few things where they use some artistic license, things like how long the gas would last, I got to say, because there's a conversation in there. Well, we'll talk about that in a minute, but there, the gas, how long the gas would last, turning the natural gas back on, things that maybe shouldn't have lasted as long as they should have, even us preppers who would look after it. Right.
Well, and if he was careful with it too, though, right? Like he fenced up that whole, it was just like a whole little area. Like I don't know
Looked
what was
like
maybe four or five buildings.
Yeah.
Like just a little tiny make yourself town.
Yeah, and
I
mean, because he had nothing but time.
And so the gas might have lasted longer because maybe he only had the gas at his place, right?
That's true.
And if he had a way of filtering it through, and maybe he only ran it so many times.
And he had a big ass diesel generator. I mean, he did everything he could, and he built himself. I mean, he machined things, but the one thing he didn't have was a partner or someone to share it with, because they show him having fun and doing his shit, and then he sits down to have a meal, and it's this beautiful rabbit or something, and he's all alone. And so then you cut to him. This was really funny. I love this part. So, he has booby traps everywhere because he's had nothing but time. And I read some of the Reddit threads on this, and people are like, how the hell did he build all those fences and everything in 3 years?
Well, what else is he going to do?
Right. And my thought was, how the hell did he not build more? Yeah. I mean, really, you've got nothing but time. And if you're healthy and, in decent shape, of course you're going to build that shit. I would.
It's either that or you sit around and do nothing, right?
Right. And so he had the best tripwire bombs, or not bombs. I don't know, like whatever they were, booby traps, I guess. And this zombie walks through, trips the tripwire, and the shotgun shell just explodes right in his face. And of course, he's like, he jumps up and he's quite excited. And that's his entertainment. He doesn't have television or the internet, but he does have closed circuit TV to watch his zombies get blown up. And then he has pits as well, right?
Yeah.
So he goes out one day because his alarm's tripped, and it's a gentleman named Frank, right?
Frank?
Yes. And so he comes in, and he didn't really want to keep him, right? I mean, he's a hard-nosed prepper. So
he asked him who else was with him, and he said that there was 10 of them, right?
Right.
And he was the only one left.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they had hiked from Baltimore to Boston. So maybe you guys know, I had to look it up to see 400 miles. So you walked about 8 hours a day. It would take you about 15 days. So that's a treacherous walk in this day and age, for sure. Or in that day and age, I should say. But so they have some humorous exchanges where he says, if I let you eat here, you're going to tell every hobo, vagrant, and homeless dude that this is a free lunch. He said, and this is no Arby's. And Frank's like, what are you talking about? Arby's never had free lunch. You had to pay for it. It was a goddamn restaurant. So I enjoyed that. So then right about that time, my brother-in-law messages me, and he says,
remember we figured it out because he let him have a shower.
Right.
And he got him some clothes. And you could tell he's completely awkward because he's been by himself for so long. And I think it implied that he lived with his mother.
For sure.
Beforehand. Yeah. So it was just him and his mother.
And he had nothing but time and it's seemingly money as well.
Yeah. So so then when they go to sit down at dinner and you kind of get the vibe, and then he brings it out and Frank makes the comment about, a man who knows how to pair his wine with his rabbit. And that right there, you're like, okay, yeah. So we know what like you don't want to generalize, but I asked, you ask anybody and they're like,
you're like, is that dude gay? That's what you said, or you asked me, and the problem was
no, you asked that, and I said, oh, definitely.
No, I knew this got spoiled for me a couple weeks ago.
I know, but remember, I said, yeah, there's no way he isn't, because like
it was funny,
like, and that's one thing I appreciate about gay men is that like they have taste and they know what goes with what, and they're wonderful like that.
So
right?
what you're saying is I don't have taste then? Is that what you're saying?
Do you know what wine goes with rabbit?
Yeah, the kind you drink. God,
exactly.
Yeah, beer, bourbon. Yeah.
Yeah. But it was like as soon as you see it, I was like, okay, yeah, now I get it where it's going.
And it was I won't lie, it was what's the word? It was awkward seeing Ron Swanson kiss another dude.
You know what though? I think it was, but it didn't bother me though. Like he did it so well. It was awesome. Like,
but the story, their love story, whatever you want, it was awesome, and it brought me to tears at the end. So, but I won't. It was just, that's all. I'm just being honest.
Yeah, it's because you know him as Ron Swanson, right? And the one that talks about having his what do you call it? All his ex-wives to his deathbed so he can tell them to go to hell, right?
It's so like here's the quote I came up with while watching this show. So Ron Swanson was a man's man.
Yes.
And in this episode, Bill is a man's man who happens to like men.
Yes.
So, and that's where the story came. And so, because you felt bad for Bill because
he was lonely.
He was,
and you could tell that he had the type of relationship with his mother that his mother probably knew, but he looked like he hadn't told anybody.
And you got to remember, this was 20 years ago.
Exactly. So it looked like he hadn't told anybody, and he was
ashamed for whatever reason.
And you could tell he carried himself like he was shy and didn't know how to react and stuff. And then when Frank makes the comment about tell him when he sees the piano and they're playing the music, and he's such a bad
singer.
Yeah. They both are. Mm-hmm. It's Nick Offerman.
Yeah. So I just want to shout out John Gardner. He said, first time on a live chat, you're in for a good one, buddy, tonight. so Ron Swanson was played masterfully by Nick Offerman on Parks and Recreation. He is a libertarian man's man who forges his own rings and walks through Home Depot. And when they come to ask him for help, he says, I know more than you, get away from me. So anyway, he ended up playing a prepper on The Last of Us who ended up having a thing for dudes.
Well, he was gay.
He was gay, which was totally fine. But it was just a shock when it came through, because you're used to him playing a certain character and all of a sudden you're like, oh, okay. But then
when it comes down to it and Frank says to him, he goes, if I do this, basically it was kind of like, if I show you my affection and I show you my love, I'm not leaving.
Right.
And that was like, and then you get to, and you're like, okay, so basically he's in it for the long haul.
Yes.
And that kind of gives you like a good feeling about him, because then you're kind of like, okay, well then he's not going to attempt to kill him to steal his stuff. And he's not going to like take off and go tell a whole slew of army who are going to come overthrow him.
Well, because that's what you really think.
Yeah. When you first meet him. Yeah.
But you get that because we've seen it happen so many times in The Walking Dead too.
Yeah.
But just so you know, and it was really quite funny because they have their first date and they use hard cuts in this episode really, really well. So they go from where they're happy and whatever to whoom, and Frank running out the front door, yelling at Bill, and they're having their first, marital squabble 3 years, not their first, but
I think, was it 5 years later or 3 years?
3 years.
3 years. Yeah.
And so here's how it goes. And,
but when you first see him, that's the first thing that goes through your brain. Okay, he's going to trick him. There's going to be 10 people in the field. They're all going to jump him. They're going to steal everything. And, whether you want to, but this type of scenario and this type of situation, it's going to be very, very hard to find trustworthy people.
Oh, absolutely.
Because everybody's out for themselves.
Yep.
Right. But it seems like 3 years later, when you see that, you're like, okay, these two needed each other. Like Frank, obviously, like if you watch Frank over more and more, you could tell that he's not very
he wouldn't have survived another week.
Like he's not very preppy.
He reminded me of Aaron's husband in The Walking Dead. Do you remember? Was it Aaron? Yeah, remember?
Yes.
Yeah. Oh yeah, very effeminate
but he didn't have a clue.
No, he just wasn't a survivalist.
No, and he needed Bill.
Yep, but Bill also needed Frank.
But Bill needed Frank.
Because Bill said at one time that I was never afraid before I met you, and that it gave me a purpose to live. I had someone to look after, and that was cool. So the conversation was great because I could picture you and I having this conversation. Yeah. You storming out the door saying, all I want is to paint the houses and a little bit of gas for the goddamn lawnmower. And he says, if you mention resource allocation again, I'm going to go run through a tripwire, because that's all I could think of. I'm like, who the hell is going to waste gasoline on a lawnmower in the apocalypse?
It's because he wanted to make it look nice.
I know.
But again, it's because they have nothing but time.
Right.
And you know what? And if that's what gave him a little bit of enjoyment, and, give him some gas for the lawnmower. Right?
But I couldn't do it. I'm like, nope. Resource allocation, bitch. You're stuck. Because we only have finite resources,
I
right?
just go help myself.
Yeah, I know you would. So there you go. That's how it goes. But And then after that, he said, we'd like to make the town look good because we're going to have guests. And you think, okay, this seems rather odd. And then Frank's like, oh, by the way, I've been talking to a nice lady on the radio.
Yeah.
And at that point, I'd have slapped you the taste right out of your mouth. I love you, Mrs. Cook. I would have felt absolutely betrayed if you were, not you in particular, and I know we would talk about this, but if my significant other was conversing with people outside of the compound.
And you know the way Frank is too. He probably told them exactly where they were, what it looked like.
You should come over. It's a really nice place. We have food and electricity and gasoline. It's like,
and you know darn well that's probably what he did.
That's what pisses me off. Like, there's no OPSEC there at all, no operational security. And and Bill is just sitting there vibrating like he wants to punch him right in the fucking face because he knows that they're probably dead now because of it. Now, it turns out they were lucky. And it was Joel and Tess.
Yes.
You know, that's how plots work. We get that.
But even though they might not have been that lucky because remember, Tess makes the comment about her and Joel not being very good people.
Good point.
Right.
I'll give you that. Yeah.
But they seemed like they were like, because I have no doubt that Joel and Tess probably would have went in there and took everything from them. But they seemed that they were more of an asset than they were.
Wow, you just blew my mind. I never thought about that.
Yeah.
So you think they would have went in there and killed them and taken everything if they didn't think they could get more by trading?
Exactly. Well, she said that they weren't good people. So I have no doubt if they had went and met them and got a bad vibe from them or decided that they were a non-asset to them, they probably would have just killed them right then and there and took everything they had.
Huh. I never thought of that. Because the whole time they're sitting there, Bill's got his hand, I can't remember if that was his 1911 or not, but he had his handgun sitting on the table, basically pointing it at Joel. And then Frank's like, well, Tess, come on in, look at the house. And Bill's losing his ever-loving mind because he's like, I don't want anybody to know this shit. And I guess I never thought of that. Yeah. That's a good point, Mrs. Cook.
But they obviously thought that they were an asset.
Yes.
Right.
And so the conversation between Bill and Joel was actually pretty good, but they're basically like, hey, we don't like each other, but we can use each other.
Yep.
Because Joel says there's shit in the quarantine zone you can't get. Things like machined parts, things like books, things like medicine. So it was interesting to know that this kind of stuff is still being built, even though the world has basically fallen apart.
Yeah.
And it was fun. And so, but there was one morning, of course, and this is where we knew this was coming, but Joel says, you don't have to worry about the government, the military. They're not coming out this far. You don't need to worry about the walkers, whatever you want to call them. Your traps will take care of them. But what you need to worry about is raiders. And he said they'll come sometime at night.
Yeah.
And of course, hard cut from there. And this is what they used really well. And they cut to a nighttime. Frank's in bed sleeping. It's piss pouring rain, thunder and lightning outside. And all of a sudden the explosions start going off.
And it's funny though, too, because you can hear the explosions going off and Frank is just freaking right out and he's running all over the house looking for Bill. And there's Bill out in the middle of the road with his gun already shooting at them.
This was a very big contention on Reddit this week in the Our Preppers subreddit. People thought that a real well-trained preparedness person would not stand in the middle of the road firing at the people. Now, I'm going to say you're probably right, but I'm also going to say he was probably pissed off and a little bit scared and a little bit anxious. And we do stupid things sometimes.
Well, that and like he probably could stand in the middle because like he knows where all his traps are. So basically,
it was the bullets though. Everybody was concerned about.
Yeah, but they were setting off the traps, so he was shooting in the direction that the traps were going off. So he knew where he was shooting. But the problem, again, is that he didn't know how many he was shooting at. And
he couldn't really tell where they were coming from.
Exactly. So, like, because there could have been 5 coming from one way and 5 coming from another way. And he didn't exactly know what he was shooting at. So it was kind of dumb for him to stand out there. And it was even dumber for Frank to run out in the middle of the road and get him.
Yes, it was.
But, but like when he got shot, it was like, you kind of expected it.
Yeah, you knew it was coming. So again, what this episode did really well was it it messed up your expectations. Whatever you thought was going to happen didn't. So there was a really nice scene with Bill and Frank. Bill's inside. He's got an abdominal wound. He's bleeding. You think, well, this could be it. That's what you're wondering. Is he going to die? And all he could think about was telling Frank things like, make sure you keep the gas on. Call Joel. You can't be here alone. I made copies of all the keys. I made a list of everything you need to know. And I thought, what a good prepper.
Yeah.
He made his lists. But it also reminded me that there's times that there's things we wish we'd have told somebody that we didn't necessarily tell. Mm-hmm. And you try your damnedest to teach everyone in the family. It's like me. I've got you to have the generator out once, but we need to do it again, just in case I happen to be away when you need to start it. And so he's there and you think, wow, this isn't good. And so they cut to, was it 10 years later? I think
it was 10 years.
10 years later, but they're both still alive. And you see somebody sitting in a wheelchair and you figure, oh, it must be Bill. And they pan in and it's Frank.
Yeah.
He has something like, what do we think? MS?
Well, I don't think he had a stroke because you want to think if he had a stroke, then his speech would have been a little slurred. But I'm thinking probably maybe Lou Gehrig's or MS, because they don't ever actually say. But it could have been, I don't know, it could have been brain cancer.
That's true.
It could have been anything, but he could have had a tumor on his spine that he wasn't able to walk anymore. It could have been anything. So it never actually says.
And it was sad, but it was cool because you get to see these two guys who got to live their life for 20 years when the whole rest of the world didn't get to live it, so there, who knows who else out there got to. So they go to bed that night. And when Bill wakes up in the morning, Frank had pulled himself out of bed and was up sitting in a chair. And he told Bill, today is my last day. And that was sad, but he was at the point, and I'm a staunch believer in this, that if you're in a way where you're never going to get better, then you have 100% the right to end it on your terms. And that's what ended up happening. They had a wonderful day. They got married. They picked out rings. They had they went to the clothing shop and got matching tuxes. They had a good meal. And then if you don't want me to ruin the absolute ending, turn it off now, folks. But so he put all the painkillers in his glass of wine, give it to Frank. Frank drank it. And then Bill drank his glass just as fast. And it turned out, of course, that there was painkillers also in the bottle of wine, enough to kill a horse, in the words of Ron Swanson. So, and of course, Bill was a thoughtful man. And now going back to the video game, because I had to look up to see if Bill and Frank were real people. They were. They
were in the video game, but that's not what happened to Frank.
No. Frank hung himself in the video game.
Because he was bit.
Right. But he had left Bill beforehand because Bill was a miserable son of a bitch that nobody could live with. So they definitely changed it in this. And that's okay, because that's what an adaptation is for.
Yeah.
So Bill, the thoughtful dude that he was, left a letter that said, to whom it may concern, but probably Joel.
Well, you got to say, Frank got mad at Bill.
Right.
For taking all the painkillers. And then Bill says to him, he's like, for the last 20 years, you basically have been my entire life. You're all that I needed.
I'm good now.
I'm good now. I don't need any more.
And it was sad.
It was, but it was really sweet.
It was, because
it was really sweet.
Not everybody gets the opportunity to grow old and then choose your way to part.
And they parted together, right? Yeah.
And he was so it reminded me of an old man, something an old man would do. Yeah. But he locked the bedroom door, he opened the bedroom window, and he left the note on the table. And the thing that I was so impressed with the showrunners was that they resisted the urge to actually show the bodies in the bed. I was really happy about that, because as Joel's coming in, Joel and Ellie show up. They go into the compound. Joel goes to go into the bedroom and the door's locked. I'm like, oh, thank God. Awesome. Yeah. Good. Because there was no need of them to because you wanted to remember them.
He says that in the letter too. There's no need for you to open the door. It's locked, something along the lines, because...
And I left the window open so it wouldn't stink. I was like, what a good man.
Yeah.
And so then Ellie finds herself a gun that Joel told her she shouldn't have, but, or didn't want her to have a gun for some reason. I'm sure it's going to pay off down the road. She'll probably save him from something and he'll be mad. Anyway, so she hides a gun. They left him a Chevy S10, said, take everything you want.
Well, they both had showers.
Oh, right. Hot shower. Forgot about that.
And he, in the note, said that he, take everything you need and then take the car. And
it gave me some thought, because in this episode, Bill worked his whole life securing everything he could have. And eventually everyone passes away, everyone loses what you have, and someone else gains it. Hey. And I guess that's just the way life is, isn't it?
Well, but he wanted to make sure that Joel got it. Well, he says Joel and Tess, but
he doesn't know Tess is dead, which is a shame. But something that was kind of cool, because if you've been following the show, they've been on the search for a battery. They really needed a car battery. And so I've been doing some reading about this just because it piqued my interest. But Bill had a battery completely disassembled in his fridge with the sulfuric acid stored in a plastic jug, which would mean it wouldn't evaporate. And Joel was able to rebuild the battery and charge it up and have basically a brand new automotive battery, which would be one of the only batteries in the world at the moment.
The little shitbox.
Little shitbox S10 Chevy.
Yeah.
So it was cool. It was neat. And that truck, is in the video game. And the closing scene is really kind of cool, because you can see the S10 pulling through the automatic gate, and the camera pulls back and back and back, and it pulls into Frank and Bill's window, and it pulls back further. And again, they resist the urge to show the bodies, which I really appreciated, because sometimes less is more. And you just get to see on the side a portrait of Bill. Wasn't it a portrait of Bill that Frank, and that was it. And then there was a hard fade to black. And it was a great episode. I thought it was.
No, it was really, and I've seen a lot of TikToks about how people were more upset about the fact that they turned this episode only into an hour when it should have been a whole series.
Well, oh my God, it could have been a series, couldn't it?
It was so good. And I haven't heard anybody complain about the episode at all. Like, it was.
There's a few people that didn't like it, and whatever. Fuck them.
That's their problem.
So the tail end of my brother-in-law's text message. So Barrett, this was great. I loved it. And I'm sure he won't mind me sharing this, but he sends it to me and he says, "Hey, Tim, you're just like the dude in episode 3. And I said, "Where are you at?" And he goes, "At the piano scene." This is just as you find. I'm like, "Oh, okay." So about 3 minutes later, he goes, "Well," he says, "I guess you're not completely like that guy in the episode." And I'm like, "All right, there you go." I didn't want to spoil the surprise for him. So I chuckled. I had to chuckle. I'm like, yeah, but it was it was a good episode. And you're right. It could have been it could have made a series out of it. Now, there was a 2-hour director's cut of the episode that may see the light of day someday. So that would be cool.
Nice,
yeah. They said it's even more heartbreaking, but it was. So now there was a few thoughts in here. There was a lot of prepper related stuff, which was cool. We saw the "Don't Tread on Me" flag. We saw the "Join or Die" flag, all the cliches. And then there's a really good interaction between Frank and Bill in the street. And he says, he said, "All you ever thought about was that the government was all Nazis." And Bill's like, "They are all Nazis." He's like, "Well, they are now." And I'm thinking, you've literally lived through a 10-year apocalypse due to the ineptitude of the government, and you still think that he was only partially right. It's like, what is wrong with you? I don't get it.
It's because he was trying to win the argument.
I know. That is true.
Yeah.
And it was, like I said, there was a 2-hour cut of it, which would have been really good. I enjoyed it. There was a lot of literary license in products lasting longer than maybe they should have, whatever, but it was.
Well, I think in the 2-hour cut, they'll probably elaborate more on what happened with Frank, because he was the healthier of the two.
Yes, he was. Yeah.
Like, he jogged every morning, and you could tell he took care of himself. So, but it's just, but maybe in that they'll elaborate more about, because like maybe he already knows he has something wrong with him, and it just progressed quicker.
Yeah.
Or,
I would have liked to have known a little more, and it was another neat thought that I came across online this week, and everybody wanted to know, like, well, why was he relying on generators and fuel and natural gas? Why didn't he have solar panels? Well, again, you got to remember, this is taking place The apocalypse happened 20 years ago in 2003, when the price of solar and even the existence of solar was much more minimal. It was there, but it wasn't necessarily on a lot of preppers' radars at the time because it was really friggin' expensive and it wasn't nearly as reliable. Batteries weren't, all of that. So
then it was probably a lot harder to get too.
Oh, sure. All of it. I mean, 20 years ago, right? So, he had his diesel, he had his fuel, he had his car battery stored up. He had what he could. And then he scavenged the rest from Home Depot and everywhere else, which was kind of cool. But so I didn't there was only one negative review, and I didn't feel it was worth sharing this week. So I did find a couple of interesting articles regarding the show in general. And this one kind of, I wouldn't say it pissed me off, but you guys can tell me what you think. So this was from a lady named Carolyn Pettit from Kotaku? I don't know, KOTAKU.com. And her thoughts are, the longer the series goes on, the more sense it makes to me that the writers opted to shift Outbreak Day to 2003. One admittedly minor but not insignificant detail that occurs to me here is that if it had taken place in 2013, some people could have seen Bill's prepper mentality and don't tread on me flag as a potential response to the presence of a black man in the White House. Since after all, there was a significant increase of doomsday preppers in the U.S. during the Obama administration. So yes, so there is. Now, okay. Here's the thing. If that is not the perfect case of cherry picking data I have ever seen. So here's the deal. There is a thing in prepper circles that always said that Barack Obama was good for gun sales. And during Obama's administration, when you would go to gun shows, they would be packed. And then when Donald Trump come along, they weren't packed anymore.
Now, you'd think there would be more doomsday preppers when Trump was in the office because Trump didn't know how to shut his mouth.
Here is the thing. It didn't have to do with Obama being in office. It didn't have to do with a black man being in office. It had to do with a Democrat being in office. Because every time a Democrat is in office, people are scared their guns are going to get taken away, and rightfully so. So people go and buy guns. People are always more scared. For the most part, us as preppers, even though I would identify as an anarchist, would still be considered to the right-wing persuasion.
And I don't want to be, might be a little off, but I think the "Don't Tread on Me" flag has been around for a long time.
It's called the Gadsden flag. It's been around. Yeah. I don't want to guess, but I think it was the Revolutionary War, I believe. Now, I could be wrong, guys, and please correct me if I am. Somebody will, but
but I'm
as a
pretty
Canadian,
sure it's been around a lot longer than when Obama was in office.
So this Carolyn needed to co-opt the flag and make it sound like it was a racist thing. It's not a racist thing.
No.
It's a fact that there was a Democrat in the office, in the White House, and everybody was scared that shit was going to happen. Every time a Democrat, when you have an old man in the office who can't even remember the codes to the nuclear weapons, there's going to be more people with doomsday preppers. That's just what happens. So fuck off with this cherry picking of the data and look at it from a broad stance. And that's what it is. It always went that way.
No, what is Biden?
He's a Democrat. Left wing, like Trudeau, right?
Okay, so I imagine the sales are probably through the roof again.
They are, exactly. Yeah. And that's so, they may not have enough data on it yet, but that's how it goes. It's up and down. And
it's the same thing in Canada when the Liberals get in office.
Absolutely. And then you go back and, you look at Clinton versus Bush and all of that. So whatever, there you go. So, and then this one here, we remember how we had a discussion, was it last week, about how many seasons we thought it would go and whether it would be renewed. So as soon as we went off the air last week, it turned out that it was picked up for season 2. Yeah. So it's been renewed.
I don't think it's going to be longer than 3 seasons, though.
You're smart. Did you read this article yet that I'm going to share? No, you've been looking at my notes, haven't you, honey?
No,
I'm just kidding.
I said that right from the beginning. I don't think it's going to be longer than 3 seasons.
And you're not wrong. So it turns out that even back before the show aired, this was January 5th, Gizmodo had an interview with Craig Mazin, who was the creator of Chernobyl, and Neil Druckmann, who's the creator of The Last of Us. And they revealed that the show is very unlikely to go more than 3 seasons. And in this article, this interview, they said season 1 will take place at game 1, and season 2 and 3 will take place for the second game. And that's it. That's what they're saying. So they the opening line of the article was, "The Last of Us will not overstay its welcome."
Well, and you know what the problem is, though, too, is that if
anybody wants to know what's going on,
that's just Maisie.
Maisie decided she needed to
pork
up a chicken bone while we're talking here. So no,
I honestly, and the way that Bella Ramsey is going, I can't see there being a third season.
You don't think so?
She can't carry it.
Well, I suppose.
And people are going to get irritated with her, right? And like I said, like I don't know if I'll watch it if she's the main character or not, because she irritates me. So
I get it. I do.
Yep.
And I've loved the show so far.
I love
I'm excited.
the show.
I wish they would have stretched it out more.
Like, no, I love the show, and it's a great show, but I don't know. I just don't know if I could handle watching her an hour and a half every week, right? Like, because it might be, I don't know, might be too. Maybe they'll reverse it and they'll kill her and keep Joel going. So,
that could be. I'd be okay with that. I really would. I don't know. I'm just enjoying it. It's 9 episodes. It's going to be a lot of fun. We still have 6 episodes left, so we've been doing really well. But I don't know. Maybe they'll change things up. I'd love to see them explore the world a little more.
Yeah, I just like it. It's frustrating because you don't want them to kill off Joel.
No,
like they do in the video game, but maybe they won't because they changed Frank.
That's true.
So
Jesus, wouldn't that throw everybody?
Oh, that would be, and I know there would be so many pissed off people if they did that.
I'm not sure there would be, because there's a lot of pissed off gamers about how they treated Joel's character and basically neutered him in game 2.
Okay.
So now, of course, who knows where they'll go, because yeah, right. But I don't know. We'll see.
So maybe they won't. That would be, because I like even Joel's brother, Tommy. I don't, who's the actor that plays him? Like, I don't even know.
Gabrielle Luna.
Yeah. So
he's a well-known actor from Star Wars. Yeah. So,
but I don't think he could carry the season.
No, but he's better than her. Let's put it that way.
Probably, so. But I don't know. I can't see them dropping Pedro Pascal that quickly, because he's too much of a moneymaker, right?
I hope they don't. I really do. Because so I've also heard recently that he may have just signed on to play, I'm not sure which one, the Gunslinger or Randall Flagg, in Amazon's adaptation of the Dark Tower series for Stephen King. Now, Amazon doesn't have a real good track record with epic adaptations recently.
No.
All you need to do is look at Robert Jordan's Wheel of Time, or whatever the hell this Lord of the Rings thing is. So I haven't watched it. I don't have time for it. But
no, I've got no interest in it.
I am glad we've made time for this show, though. This has been fun. It's been a long time since we've had a weekly post-apocalyptic fiction to look at, to be excited for. But I was trying to think, have we watched anything else? I thought
like,
we
as
had
a
TV
weekly
show or movies, anything recently that we could talk about, because I know we've been rather busy. And
well, everything's just kind of died down right now, like, because Stranger Things hasn't started. The new House of Dragon hasn't, like, they're filming that now, and
I'm really looking for. I know we talked about it last week a bit, but I'm really excited to watch Knock at the Cabin.
Yes, that comes out today,
it's already out.
Think. Yeah,
I think yeah. And it,
but again, that's just a movie. But
yeah, it is. But we'll probably do a review on it, because it's definitely post-apocalyptic in some sense. I think
Amy and I will go see it in the theater when we go to the city.
Oh, see, so now she's a big shot. She's going to the city without me, so it's all right. She's letting me go to Tennessee for a month without her. So not that I want to do that, but
yeah.
But yeah, no, it looks good. We talked about Megan. Another one that's out right now is Missing. Have you seen that? It's like one of those. It's like Searching, the one that's done through computer and everything.
Oh, okay, yeah. Oh, no, I have seen that. It's it kind of reminded me of that Searching one, like kind of like another cheap knockoff, because I can't think of anything else.
Yeah, but I heard it was pretty effective. They took 3 years to make it, and I don't know. I'll watch it. It'll be worth watching for sure.
Yeah, no. As for shows, there's nothing out right now. Amy had mentioned that Mayor of.
Oh yeah, the Jeremy Renner's new show.
Jeremy Renner. Yeah, we haven't watched that one yet, but so I watched them.
Oh yeah, what did you think of that? That's horror, right?
Yeah, it was on.
What the hell? Paramount? No,
No, I think it was on
Amazon
Prime.
Prime. Yeah,
And it was pretty good. Like it kind of reminded me a little bit of a Jordan Peele movie.
Okay.
Like not Get Out, but like Us, where it's kind of like a little bit of a mind twist.
Okay. Because I love Get Out. I think it's one of my favorite.
No,
movies.
Get Out was my favorite, but Us.
Yeah.
But it was like a mind twist, and
we haven't seen Nope yet.
No,
I know.
But it's a mind twist like that, but I didn't mind it. It was all right.
Yeah.
I made pretty quick work of it, but.
And we have another idea that we're probably going to expand on down the road. And so I have this idea that we may end up, so that we're going to continue doing our pop culture episodes, and they're going to continue to be in the main feed of the podcast. But I'm also thinking about maybe spinning it out to its own feed in the podcast so people can subscribe to just the pop culture one too.
Okay.
Call it something like the Workshop Wasteland or something.
Well, that'd be cool.
Yeah, I think it'd be fun. And we could get like a kind of a disintegrating logo or something. I don't know. It would be cool. So we have this idea, and we'll see what you guys think. But so I've been listening to this other podcast called Chat the Movies, and they have they go back and they rewatch old 80s and 90s films, and people commission the films for them. So basically they either pick the worst of the worst or the best of the best, and then they watch it and they review it.
Okay.
And they commission them for like $100. People pay like $170 to pick a movie for these guys. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. But what I'm thinking is, if you guys are in the mood to torture us, we're thinking about trying to find the worst post-apocalyptic films you can find.
And I would go horror.
Yes, you can do horror as well. So we're thinking somewhere kind of in the ballpark of like $20 through Lightning or something like that. And you get, so that's the price you get to pay to subject us to the absolute worst movie. And we will either watch it live or do a review afterwards and tell you how close we were to slitting our wrists while we watched it. So
no comedies, please.
Yes, no, it's basically got to be post-apocalyptic for now.
Or horror.
Or if you want to do,
I'll do horror.
I know you will.
Horror or apocalyptic. Nothing else.
Yes.
I will not sit through a comedy movie. It'd have to be more than $20. So, comedies I don't like comedies.
We're going to do it through PayPal or Lightning anyway. So something we're going to do down the road, and we'll start lining them up, and you guys can absolutely make us suffer, and we'll watch the worst of the worst, and we will sit down and maybe get drunk and watch them. Hey?
I was going to say, I'm going to have to start drinking, I guess.
Oh, it'll be fun. I'm looking forward to it. And there are, just for the record, there are some really, really shitty low budget apocalyptic films, especially on Shudder and Amazon Prime.
There is some really, really bad horror movies too.
And they're not so bad it's good. They're just fucking awful.
Yeah, they're like
boring.
shot on a little handy cam in someone's basement.
And those mockbusters, oh my god, they're just awful. Awful. Like the ones where they're like, I don't know, when Titanic comes out, it'll be like Titanic the Revenge or something, right?
Raise the Titanic.
Yeah, Raise the Titanic.
I have seen that. I don't even know how many times the actual picture.
Yeah.
And I'm not gonna lie, there has been times where I'm like, you know what, I'm gonna watch that.
Because
I can never bring myself to do it.
Because they spend 35% of their budget on the fucking movie poster. So that it looks good on streaming services. That's all.
Raise the Titanic. Yeah. Every time I see it, I'm like, I'm gonna watch that.
Because what ends up happening is it's a movie that was made for $1 million. Where
how'd they even get $1 million?
That's usually about what their budget is, which is crazy. And it's usually 80% of people walking and talking. And
kind of like those Sharknado movies too. Oh, those are ridiculous.
But at least the early Sharknados were entertaining.
They just kind of got dumb after that.
The ones that suck are the ones that are just boring. They make no sense, and you're just following somebody around. You're like, okay, I know this was shot in the desert in California, and I know the rest of it was shot in somebody's basement and they went to Home Depot and bought a bunch of friggin' piping and flexible silver ductwork to make it look like, there it is. Dave Clark says exactly. That's what, glad to. So it's basically Mystery Science Theater 3000, the post-apocalyptic version. Exactly. Yes. Maybe we'll call it Mystery Science Workshop 3000. How about that?
And and I think what's best on those is when you're watching them and you can hear the echo.
Oh yeah, because you're like
because they're like filming it on a handy cam.
There's no sound stage. There's no
No.
after dubbing. There's no what do they call that? ADR after. Anyway, it's the audio they do afterwards to make it sound better. Because it's like, okay, we don't even have money to rent a sound stage, so we're going to film in Bill's basement on a handy cam, and guess what? We don't even have a boom mic, so we're going to record with the onboard microphone on the goddamn 2003 handy cam.
And when they throw them through a table, it's like a cardboard box.
Oh yes,
with a tablecloth.
And what you're going to hear is somebody's going to talk like this, and it's going to sound like they're across the room. You're going to wonder what's going on, and that's exactly. And it's so painful.
Mm-hmm.
It's the worst. And somehow this shit gets made.
Oh, I know. I don't.
Not that I would want to make a movie, because I don't think I don't have the.
No, but you watch it sometimes, and you watch some of those, and you're just like, how was this even made?
Oh, I get it.
Like,
I know.
Kind of like the Zach and Miri make a porno one.
Whew, just jumped. Somebody just went through the floor upstairs. Sorry, guys. But that wasn't very good, was it?
No, but it's the same, like how they were making it.
Oh yeah. Exactly. Yeah, it was all done on just a no budget at all.
Yeah, with a little handy cam. Yeah.
But I don't know. I think we've got it covered for this week, don't we, Mrs. Cook?
We do.
Yeah, I think it'll be fun. So anybody out there, you can, especially if you're listening on Fountain, that's the way to reach out. But it's going to be something that we might make time for. If there's enough interest, we'll make time for it before we finish the Last of Us series. But if not, we'll start doing it after the Last of Us series, eh?
But make sure that it's accessible to us.
Oh yeah, accessible. I can find any.
Well, movie. I know, but there are some movies that you can try to find them. They're not available in Canada.
Oh,
and, you know what I mean? So, and
that's what Napster's for. Napster hasn't been a thing since 2004. So and we'll make it work.
Yeah, some ridiculous dubbed movie.
Oh, it'll be awful. It'll be fun. Yeah, it'll be good. Maybe we'll get Barrett to come over and watch with us too. Barrett and Amy. That'd be fun. Oh, that would be a lot of fun to have. Yeah. Oh man, we could set up a camera in the living room while we watched it. Yeah, that would be really good. Because there's a lot. I love those. Like, so I watch So Bad It's Good. The one that you don't really care for, the husband and wife.
Yeah.
And then, of course, Best of the Worst from Red Letter Media.
Is that the guy with the funny laugh?
Oh, with Rich. Oh, his laugh is so bad, but they are just.
That's how I always know which one you're watching, is by his laugh.
You're like, because his laugh is really annoying. If it was anyone else, I would turn it off, but he just cracks.
Nah, I think he's funny.
He is funny, and
he's got one of those contagious laughs.
A lot of people call those guys the modern Siskel and Ebert.
Okay.
Because I mean, I don't know what other entertaining duo or trio of movie reviewers, like they said, there's no movie reviewers on TV who are celebrities anymore. So YouTube's the new place, right?
Yep.
And they are. I think they got like 3 million subscribers, and they've been doing it for 15 years.
Nice.
So, yeah. And they're entertaining too. And they just
well, because they all drink except for him.
Yes, yeah. Rich is diabetic, so he
can't drink.
He doesn't drink, and he sits back, and the rest of them.
But he always sounds more drunk than the rest of them.
I had to watch it for like a year before I realized he didn't drink. It was always Diet Pepsi. And there's a tiny guy named Tim who always gets hammered when they do that, and he's pretty funny. But they recently did an 8-minute episode on the Night Court reboot, and they said comedies when nobody laughs. It's so bad.
No, see, I think all comedies are like you know. Laugh.
I mean, there's a few. Lampoon's Christmas Vacation.
I think the only one that makes me laugh is Step Brothers.
Yes, and it's good. One. Yeah, Step Brothers is good, but there's a few. I mean, I could watch Home Alone 1,000 times,
but I don't laugh
every time.
I like John C. Reilly. He is so funny.
Yeah, he is pretty funny.
Yeah, Will Ferrell, take him or leave him.
Yeah, but then again, there's like, there's 3 or 4 Bill Murray movies that I could watch over and over again too. Scrooged is so good.
Yeah, but it's not.
It's kind of a comedy, and of course, Groundhog Day I could watch every day.
But I don't think that's funny.
Well, that's why you won't be watching it with us on next Saturday. So
honestly, and I'll probably get a lot of flack from it, but I think it's a stupid movie.
That's okay. Sorry. You're allowed to be wrong, darling.
No, I'm right. Just like you don't think Die Hard's a good movie, but
I know I like Die Hard. I just don't think it's a Christmas movie.
It is a Christmas movie.
Yeah, whatever, So,
but it takes place at Christmas time.
That is true. Movie. Just because it takes place at Christmas doesn't make it a Christmas film.
The whole emphasis is around Christmas.
Well, guys, it's been a great episode.
No, so it's like no, but there's no comedies, but no, I don't know any. I haven't seen any versions of cheap apocalyptic movies, though. I'm not.
We
sure.
have tried a few on Amazon on occasion, like on a Sunday afternoon.
You know which one was really bad? That Fifth Wave.
Yeah. Oh, that's really funny because it's so funny you just said that because Matt messaged me when he was flying back from Alaska. He was on the plane. And he's like, "Hey Tim, have you ever seen The Fifth Wave before?" He's like, "It looks like it could be interesting." And then at the end, he's like, "Oh, it's a teenage it's a young adult." And I'm like,
well, and when she's running, and it's like, and you can, it looks like they filmed it like with an awful green screen and stuff. Yeah, it was. Dave
says, "Don't feel bad, Mrs. T. I can't stand It's a Wonderful Life." So,
I don't really like it either.
And hey, Kill It and Grill It. Good to have you. Hello from Nebraska. Always good to have you. That's a good looking fish in your profile picture too. And Dave says, "Have you seen Six String Samurai?" I have not. Well, now I got to look it up since is that like a so bad it's good film? Because I've never heard of that one. Sounds like an old spaghetti western, but yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yes, man, I want to see that Knock at the Cabin so bad. But Six String Samurai.
Yeah, that Batista's really making a name for himself.
Yeah, he is. 1998. So, that looks like it could be right up my alley, Dave. Vegas Needs a New King, opening September 1998. How do I miss? It looks like a very low budget 90s film. Here's the tagline, guys. In the post-apocalyptic world of 1990s Nevada, a rock and roll samurai.
Why a rock and roll samurai?
Because 90s. That's all. Yeah.
So, he looks like he's dressed like Elvis.
Yeah, he is. So
he
says let's start this over again. In a post-apocalyptic world of 1990s Nevada, a rock and roll samurai on his way to Lost Vegas, not Las Vegas, but Lost Vegas, takes a young orphan boy under his protection as Death and his metalhead horsemen chase after them. Carries a katana in his guitar case, or in his guitar. Oh my God.
It's got little people.
Oh my God. That looks, is it in black and white, or is that just the production stills? Yeah.
No, it's
okay. Well, it has 2 awards that it won. Let's see what the awards are, because it's probably like
Razzies,
your mom's house film festival or something. I wasn't too far off. It was the winner of Excellence in Editing at the Slam Dance Film Festival of 1998, and it was the winner of Vision Award for Cinematography in the Slam Dance film. Death looks like Slash from Guns N' Roses. That is cool. And it was a nominee at the Catalonia International Film Festival for Best Film. So I don't know how this has fallen through the radar.
Who's the actor?
I don't think it's anybody we've ever heard of. I could be wrong, but who is that? Stars Jeffrey Falcone. Is that?
That sounds familiar, doesn't it?
What is he from? Jeffrey Falcone. Where is he? I don't see him. Was that him? Okay. Now, Burning Ambition, Six String Samurai, License to Steal. Looks like he was a B actor.
Okay, kind of like
but yeah,
what's his face?
Yeah, it looks like a low budget version of like Kill Bill or something. Hey, but I don't know. That's interesting. Well, that might get added to our list at some point. That I don't know how that would have fell through the cracks. That's funny because it looks like it's right up my alley from 90s films anyway. Look at him. Kind of looks got like a Johnny Knoxville look to him. That's funny. Yeah. So, yeah. What network is it on? I don't know. Let's just. Just watch it. I think it is. Justwatchit.com. Is that it? I'm probably wrong. Who's this here? Paramedia. I'm here because I don't care for spoilers, but I just watched episode 1 of Last of Us, and I played the 2 games religiously, and I'll say so far I love their adaptation. Yes. So we've already gone through the spoilers for episode 3. We won't ruin it for you, Paramedia, but don't go back and rewatch this until you've watched episode 2 and 3. But then come back and support us and watch this episode, because this is something totally different that I don't normally do on my podcast, and it's been a big thing for us. We've been doing quite well.
And you'll love episode 3.
Yeah, it is really good. We won't spoil it. Don't worry.
Nope. That's all I'm going to say.
Yep. There it is. So if anybody wants to know what streaming service a show is on, go to justwatch.com. Now, I'm unfortunately in Canada at the moment, so what was that called? 6-String Samurai. What the hell did I write? Let's try this. I don't even. How does it?
It's not even in there.
It's bad if it's not listed on Just Watch. Wow. Let's try this. Where to watch 6-String Samurai?
You'll probably have to watch it on like YouTube or something.
Oh, looks like you can rent it on Amazon Prime, guys.
Oh, I don't even know if I want to pay for it.
Yeah, that's funny.
It looks like it was available on YouTube too.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah, you can rent it on YouTube as well. So it looks like you can rent it on. Where'd you see that, baby doll? Right.
It was down at YouTube on.
All right. Yeah. So,
yeah.
So, yeah, I won't go into this a whole lot, Paramedia, but it definitely is a bottle episode that takes place outside of the normal narrative string. It's a great episode, but yes, it doesn't further the plot per se, but it's a really cool diversion from the normal narrative that's in the video game. Let's put it at that. I don't want to.
And the characters are good and it's well acted.
Yeah. Hugely well acted. So yes, no spoilers, but it's got a 97 or 96 on Rotten Tomatoes with just a single negative review, and yeah, it's good.
Yeah, no, it is. It's a really good episode.
So yeah, the 6-String Samurai. I think we'll have to check that out at some point. And Kill It and Grill It. It's good to see you in here again. I always appreciate the different names. It's fun to see the people who come in for the different shows. We had Dave Clark there, and yeah. All right. Well, what do you think, Mrs. Cook? Time to shut her down for the evening?
Yeah.
I got a long weekend. Am I still tearing a stage out at the daycare tomorrow?
And and the son-in-law's coming to lay my flooring tomorrow.
Yes, which means I don't have to lay the flooring. Thank God. So what's coming up next week? Well, I'm glad you asked, said nobody. But no. So let's see. Sunday night, we got Brian from the Lots Project coming on. We're going to get a follow-up with him on how he's doing living in his RV with his wife and 3 St. Bernards. And let's see, Tuesday, I believe, we're going to have, I got to back up. Hold on. Man, I got a bunch. So Wednesday's going to be the 250th episode. Thursday, I'm going to have Cam and Colby on from Casual Preppers Podcast. We're actually going to do a watch party / commentary for the movie Signs, since we all think that it's like the best film ever made. So that's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to find what prepper episodes we can have on there. Oh, and then Friday we'll be back with episode 4 of The Last of Us, which is going to be absolutely great. And let's see what else I got coming up for you guys, so that I don't miss anybody. Too many things on the go. All right. Yeah. So Tuesday, I've got Aiden Tate of the Last American Podcast. I was on his podcast, I don't know, a couple of months ago, and we ended up talking about everything. He is a well-versed author who has done everything. And we ended up talking about post-apocalyptic fiction again. So I apologize that this is not going to be the entire theme of my podcast. It just so happened that we get like a 10-day stretch where all this stuff, incredible fun stuff, has come together. So I also have in the works a new episode of the history of preparedness coming up. I've got another episode of the empty container series, which I know you guys always look forward to. And I also have, what else was there? And I got another one. I believe I'm going to do an episode on the New York blackout that happened in was it the 60s or 70s? I can't remember. So it's going to be good. And also, I started writing a script today for an episode on, if you guys have ever heard the saying, 9 meals, humanity's only 9 meals from anarchy. I started doing a deep dive into the origins of that phrase. And, well, here we are. So I'm always going down different rabbit holes. Paramedia says, crazy how I saw the Sarah death scene from the game so many times. When I saw it in the show, I almost shed a tear. Absolutely.
She was a really good actress, that little one.
Yeah, she was awesome.
Is that Tandy Newton's daughter?
Yeah, I believe so. So yeah, if you get caught up, Paramedia, you're welcome. I mean, you're welcome anytime, but come back next Friday evening. And Kill It and Grill It says, keep stacking, folks. Stay strong, be safe, and stay away from Chinese weather balloons, because they seem to be blowing up everywhere. So with that, guys, as always, stay happy, stay healthy, and have a great week.